Cabin swamp.
Yes.
We're in the cabin. We're recording this from our cabin.
Because we're just rich fucks.
Because when I think
of rich people, you know,
I think of cabins in the swamp.
Yes, let me go to my vacation cabin in the swamp.
You don't understand. This is a submersible cabin.
Yes.
It's under the swamp. This is a malaria-proof cabin. The wood has been treated to be malaria-proof.
Yes. It wards off mosquitoes.
They were reading A Cabin in the Swamp, which I hope will be as metatextual as A Cabin in the Woods.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see how it goes.
If this breaks down like that. It says at the beginning, this pasta was the first place winner of our Ghost Stories Creepypasta Writing Challenge. Congratulations. I think they're congratulating us for reading the first place winner.
Congratulations.
You won.
You won.
At least that's how it's coming out to me. The runners-up are The Blagenschlor and The Tavern on the Borderlands, which I hope is a Borderlands haunted gaming creepypasta. But anyway, let's actually, let's get into this cabin in the swamp, secretly a plagiarizing cabin in the woods. My brother and I bought a camp in Des Allemands for a song. What?
Your guess is as good as, probably better than mine on that.
We're going to write a song about it.
Yeah.
The camp at Lake Des Allemands. Famous campsite. Yes. It was an old trapper's cabin set back down a bayou, well off the main lake and back in the swamp. It had no electricity, no water, no modern appliance. It had swamp water. It had to have had swamp water.
They are flipping this cabin for, what is it, HGTV?
Yes, that's what's going on. Welcome back to Cabin Swampers. Maybe it's like a flip show, but then it's also a crossover with like swamp people or something.
What is this, a crossover episode?
Crossover? So they say that they have no water. What they meant to say is they have no malaria-free water. And needed some work. A while back...
Flipping it.
They're flipping it.
They're flipping it.
It's like those two homosexual men who are brothers.
I'm glad we...
Yep. A while back... The old man who owned it couldn't manage the taxes and was run off. We only had to pay a small fee in what he owed, which really didn't amount to much. At the time, we thought it was a real steal. So, obviously we made a bunch of like jokes at this story's expense at the beginning, but all of that was good. It was like the first sentence is weird, but that's not a bad thing.
No.
I don't know if that's like a turn of phrase or something. Like, we bought the cabin camp for a song.
Is it like going to see a man about a horse?
Yeah, something like yeah, just like this English idiom doesn't make any sense.
Right, like biting a bullet.
Hey, if you are from a swampy area of America and you can tell us... If you
are from a bayou...
Yes.
Please let us know. Is this something you say, or... Well, I guess we'll find out if they actually write a song, though.
Yes, if they write a song, it's like, no, wait a minute.
We were legit. The paperwork was finished on a Wednesday, and my brother and I met in Lafayette to sign everything. We loaded the...
Bateau.
Bateau, okay. Bateau on Friday afternoon, and after work... we loaded the bateau on Friday afternoon after work, and left the launch about supper time for the weekend.
Okay, I know how to say that word, but I don't know where... it just means shallow, draft, flat-bottomed boat.
Yeah, like, I know what it is. I can't pronounce it, though, because it's really French.
Bateau is way easier to say than shallow, draft, flat-bottomed boat. It was hot, Louisiana hot, and even as the sun dipped to touch the treetops, the heat was merciless. Lee turned the bateau north and opened her up. The wind in my face was cooking me thoroughly, and I could feel my skin crisping in the sunset. I looked back at my brother in the stern, his hand on the throttle of the old Evinrude as it purred. There's too much nautical swamp-based vernacular in this story for me to understand it.
This is Moby Dick in the Bayou.
Yes. Oh, that's what needs to be written, guys. There needs to be Moby Dick, but it's just hunting a giant alligator.
I was thinking catfish, just a giant
Catfish the size of a whale.
in the bayou.
Yeah, we're just gonna paddle our way out there. There's gonna be a whole pod of catfish. That catfish took my eye.
Which I would.
Both of them. Evan rude as it purred and pushed us up the lake. He has our father's complexion and was as dark and tan as aged cypress. So as dark as aged wood. I am more like pine, our mother's color, and he had been after me about sunscreen from the moment we left the truck. Okay. Trying to think of like any real meaningful commentary there. I think
the tree.
The tree
but
metaphor.
I know what those trees look like, so that helps.
So I'll say this, even though we're kind of having trouble reading this, I really do appreciate when someone writes a story from something, like you have to write what you know, right? And I think a lot of people who write creepypasta, what they know is video games, what they know is internet culture, and a lot of people who write creepypasta, what they know is creepypasta. And and so that gets very insular and very repetitive. If you know about something like boating, and this all feels very genuine, I can place myself there, even when I'm like kind of fumbling through vernacular, I can place myself there.
Yeah.
And so this person is writing what they know, and what they know is swamps and bayous and potentially house flipping, and it all feels very genuine. Yeah?
Yeah. That, or this person just watches a lot of TV, particularly swamp people and house flipping.
And if that's how they know about it, then that's how they know about it. Yeah, hey.
That's a legitimate way to come across that knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, where am I?
Right here.
Right here. A heron leapt from its perch at the sound of our motor, and I dipped my fingers. Probably supposed to be my. I dipped my fingers in the passing water. It was black as good coffee, and but for the curls of pale foam, impenetrable to the eye. Alligators are plentiful in this.
Alabama.
Alabama is full of alligators. Alligators are plentiful in des almonds. I'm just gonna say
these almonds.
Dos almonds.
And these almonds.
In these dos almonds, alligators are plentiful. And this evening was no exception as they cruised the lily pads and marsh grass for supper. I can't talk.
A-Lee.
A-Lee?
That's weird that they keep saying A-Lee, because, like, is A-Lee the brother?
No, I think A-Lee's, like, the guy on the boat who's, like, keeping to the right-hand side. A-Lee was keeping to the right-hand side, and every now and again, the brown and green of the swamp was broken by the surprising white of an egret.
Which is like a birdie guy, like a big swallow.
Yeah. I just don't know how to say the word.
Yeah, sure.
I took a deep breath. The air was full of the odor of life and decay, of the living and the dead.
This is, I don't know about in terms of, like, story, and there's a few things bothering me here, like, I want more information about the characters involved, because I'm getting a very vivid image of the surroundings.
Right.
But what is going on, I'm kind of, like, lost on a little bit.
Right, like, is A-Lee the name of the boat, or is it, like, another guy on the boat? Is that
I'm just picturing Rockley.
Rockley
from Naruto, and he's just piloting the boat.
No, he's just there, and
he's
like,
just
his theme song is just popping.
And he's just piloting. He's on the little boat, and he's just driving the two gay guys from HGTV around.
Yes, I like this image.
The two gay identical twins. Maybe half an hour later, we sighted the surveyor's tape that marked our path. He turned the bateau up onto the bayou, barely slowing, his hand sure. It's just Rock Lee putting his palm out as he does.
Yes.
His flat palm. Nearly instantly, the cypress and Spanish moss cut the sun, leaving us in the humid shade. An alligator slid onto the water from its place on the muddy bank among the palmettos? Palmettos? It churned the grass, and by the time we were past, there was no sign on the water of its going. That's
That's good. I like that.
But grammatically it's weird. That's not me, right? It churned the grass, but by the time we were past, there was no sign on the water of its going. Is this supposed to be in some...
It feels a little poetry.
For sure. Is it supposed to be a more... is it supposed to be a sort of southern vernacular that I'm not familiar with? Is this like some sort of like Creole narrator or something? Where it's like... Because that's a very weird way to phrase something.
Right.
I don't think that's just me. I turned back to my brother and smiled. He raised an excited hand, thumbed up. We getting dinner. No, it doesn't say that.
We reached the cabin maybe an hour before dark.
Real quick.
Full
dark. I don't know if we're being taken for like a ride with like this style of writing. It's bizarre, you know. But I will say, we should clarify there. The alligator was running away, right? Like the alligator was on the shore, went into the water, and disappeared.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Good. That's what I got at least.
Okay.
We reached the cabin maybe an hour before full dark, and Ailey slid the bateau against its weathered pilings, so I could tie us off. A rickety ladder allowed us to climb to the porch, built high to keep the inevitable tide surge of the hurricanes from washing the house away. The Evinrude puttered and died, and the chorus of tree frogs and insects swept in to fill the absence. Spiders' webs were stretched from piling to piling, full as shrimp nets with writhing bugs.
I can see why... I don't know what's going to happen with this story, but I feel like this one, purely based on... And again, super no idea where the plot's going, but I think that this one, just on the merit of how well it's visualizing the situation. Because this is a very vivid, visual story.
Yeah.
Get your ass up there, Joseph, my brother was laughing. We ain't got all day. I grabbed the spare rope. A particularly fat spider scurried away from my hand as I gripped the rung. I watched it disappear into a wide crack between two beams.
God damn, but you're slow. My brother was impatient at the best of times. I climbed to the porch, letting the tying down to Ailey so that he could pass up our gear. It was all easy enough except for the full cooler of ice and water, and my brother and I struggled mightily to get that up. Ailey's head was just visible above the deck.
Just visible
above the geck.
Above Gex. Hey guys.
This is good.
I don't know why my impression of Gex is just Matt Pat. I think because they're both very vapid people.
Just above the deck, as I pulled the key from around my neck and unlocked the new padlock with which we had latched the door last week.
Yeah, you.
Okay. You going to open the door or what? He said. I could hear the excitement in his voice.
Quiet down, old man. Don't make me put you in your place. If you have a brother, you know how the banter goes. I watched him step onto the deck and dust his hands on his pants.
Pant dust. I'd like to see that, he laughed, opening the lid of the cooler and tossing me an icy bottle of water.
They call me Dusty Pants Joseph.
Why they call you that?
I pushed the door open and stepped into the sweltering heat of the cabin. It was dark and still, and all the more uncomfortable for it. The cabin wasn't big, 20 by 20 or thereabout, and it had a large-ish table and a few serviceable wooden chairs, a bunk, a wood-burning stove. It smelled musty. It smelled like it had been closed for a long time. It smelled like the family vault in Ableville. Is that Ableville or Abbeville?
Yeah, why not both?
Why not both?
I've heard it both ways. I shook this thought off and took a long swallow of water.
Shake off thought!
I could feel the cold coil itself through my guts. A few mosquitoes had already found their way through the open door and were buzzing around my head despite the lacquered coating of deep woods off.
We need to get on that screen pronto. Ailey nodded and swallowed. I really don't know who Ailey is. I really don't.
He's just there.
Yeah, okay.
He's definitely not the boat.
Okay.
Like my initial theory was.
Well, he could be a talking boat.
talking boat.
Get back on, Ailey! Boop, boop.
No, he's gonna have the Rock Lee voice.
I can't remember how Rock Lee sounds.
I can't.
Yeah, now you need to do a Rock Lee impression. Have fun with that.
I can't.
Hey everybody, it's me, it's Rock Lee. I'm gonna defeat you, Gart. Oh no, I'm getting drowned in sand. Oh boy.
Oh my god.
Ailey nodded and swallowed. Damn, but it's hot, he yelled from the porch.
I returned to the deck and grabbed my work belt. He unrolled the screen as I opened the windows and called out the numbers on my tape measure. Ailey cut the screen to size and held it while I hammered a few staples in to fashion it flush with the wood. My eyes stung from the sweat, and I rubbed my wet forearm across my face in a dubious effort to dry them.
My stomach's turning, and I'm feeling kind of homesick. Too much pressure, and I'm nervous. I turned to drop my belt on the table just as a filthy white cat walked through the door. Its hair was matted in clumps, dirty with only God knew what. Its eyes, my brother and me. It eyed my brother and me. Its lips curled back slightly to expose its teeth. Ailey stomped his foot, feigning a leap. Get out of here, cat, get!
I love the imagery of a filthy, gross cat just walking. Like, there's this cabin in the middle of the fucking bayou that the only way to get to is on a boat, and then just here strolls in this filthy cat. It's like, where did you come from?
the cat just walks out, and they're like, where'd that cat come from? And then a ghost shows up. It's like, that's my cabin, pussy. Yeah.
Oh, it's good. The cat hissed and stood its ground. I tried to edge around, putting myself opposite the cat in the door. I hoped to flush the cat out onto the porch, but it had other ideas and rushed past me into the cabin. Where the hell did it go? My brother asked. I turned. Again, the cabin is a single room. Table, chairs, bunk, and stove, but no cat.
There must be a cat somewhere, I said. Some sort of pussy hole. Yeah, maybe. Maybe it's behind the stove, my brother said, crossing the room to inspect it. With the windows open, there was enough light to see, but the shadows were deep enough to hide a cat.
Flashlight?
On the porch, I unzipped my pack and found my headlamp. I tossed it to Ailey. What considering what the boat not having a light to begin with, and watched as he searched behind the stove. I heard him shake the stove pipe, heard its firm contact with the wall. He shook his head. Nothing.
He drew the beam of the hand lamp over...
Have lamp? Do you have lamp?
You have lamp. He drew the beam of the headlamp. Oh, God.
Headlamp?
Over the bunk and corner in
Do you
which
have
it
any
lay.
lamps?
Is this the lamp store? Why am I buying clothes at Lamp?
What? Because you're a moth?
Yeah. The wall was good there, too. Fuck it then, I said. The cat's gone.
Good enough, he replied.
The sun was down by the time we had our stuff in the cabin. Ailey lit the propane accessory lantern and set it on the table.
I used my pocket knife to cut the tops off the empty water bottles, scooped some ice from the cooler into the makeshift glass, and poured a few fingers of Crown Royal into each. Ailey smiled and took a sip, smiled again, and then took my hand. So, far be it for me to tell the story what it needs to do, but what I would say is, this moment right now is... There was a few things earlier on that kind of gave a dynamic about who these two brothers are. We still I'm guessing Ailey is just a friend?
I don't know, he just took his hand, maybe he's a lover.
Yes, there you go. But this is a moment where we're actually getting a dynamic of who these people are. I think that this is a nice moment. I think that if you've ever done manual labor with a family, you will have like these moments of like, let's take a moment, pour some Crown Royal together. This is a character building moment that I think we need something like that a lot earlier in the story, like second paragraph.
Yeah.
because we're getting an idea of the surroundings, but I still don't know who these three people are.
Right.
We're getting an idea now because they're Crown Royal fans. You know, that's something.
Right.
We got ourselves a camp, brother. His eyes twinkled in the lamplight. So we made the joke about them flipping this. I'm guessing that they're not flipping it, that this is just maybe a place where they're, like, planning on coming out and maybe fishing occasionally or something like that.
Yeah, maybe a place to get away
From women. Fucking thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've got an anti-woman shack in our family.
Who knows? Maybe maybe A. Lee is like AJ Lee. Maybe it's a woman.
No, because didn't they say him earlier in regards to A. Lee?
Women can have male pronouns. We dusted off the two chairs and set them side by side near the table. There was no sense putting the cap back on the bottle, at least not this early in the evening. We sliced cheese and dried sausage, sipped whiskey, and retold the misadventures of our youth. I like how they're eating, like, really basic bitch food, but then they have, like, a really nice whiskey to drink. Outside, the frogs were singing their hearts out. You know, this moment is probably the best moment in the story so far. Mm. And, you know, it's just a nice little human moment.
Yes.
Nothing dramatic happening, nothing important happening. It's just...
No, it's letting it breathe, and that's nice. Mm-hmm. I feel like more stories need to have breathing room.
Yes. And, you know, this is a short story. It's a longer short story, but even a short story has time for these moments. Mm. And you need to keep that in mind. Yeah.
The bottle was about half full when our conversation turned to the trapper. I wonder what happened to that old guy, Ailey mused. I could see that he felt sorry for him, sorry in some sense that the old man had lost the camp the way he had. He was always a fan of underdogs. I don't know, I said. I'm sure he moved on. Ailey he freshened his drink. He did not finish freshen. Two different things. Ailey freshened his drink. You know what was strange? He looked troubled and his eyes tightened in that way when he was thinking.
His tummy he was turning and he was feeling kind of homesick.
What? I asked. That cat wasn't wet. My brother paused and took another sip of whiskey. Out here, on the bayou.
A dry cat. And this Tate at this time of year.
In this cabin.
Well... May I see the dry pussy?
No.
No. Seymour, the cabin's on fire!
No, it's not.
It's just Aurora Borealis. It was my turn to sip and think. Maybe it lives in the cypress, jumping from tree to tree. Maybe, he said. Tree puss. You wishing on coriander?
Wishing on a coriander?
Coriander? I asked, smiling past my cup. We both knew.
They're suddenly Canadian.
Watching the History Channel's new show.
Canadians in the
Canadian
bayou.
Swampers. I don't know why the Canadian Swampers guy is the guy from Bar Rescue. This bayou has an L-shaped bar. We both knew what that meant. Down here... the Loup Garou is the boogeyman that keep kids up at night. Isn't the purpose of a boogeyman to put kids down at night, stay the fuck in the bed, or the boogeyman will get you?
Yeah, but like that.
So
keeps
mommy
you
and daddy
up.
can bone.
That keeps you up so that you hear mommy and daddy boning all night, and you're just like, why is the boogeyman murdering mom and dad?
So you learn how sex works with relatives, so you can have sex with your cousin.
Preferably not.
Preferably even closer blood relatives.
Right. Now you're thinking.
What, you want to have sex with your cousin? What, is your sister not good enough for you?
Not as pretty, Dad.
Supposedly, it's a bit, obsessive-compulsive and stops to count all the little holes before it can enter a house at night. The more superstitious have been known to hang a coriander or cheese grater by the door for just this reason. That's a cute little...
I like that.
I like it when monsters have a way that you can fuck with the monsters.
Yeah.
That's a nice thing. It's a good thing. Yeah. I'm turning into Martha Stewart. Marcia Stewart? You know why?
Criminal Martha Stewart.
You know why I thought of marshes?
Why?
Because we're in the bayou.
Oh, I see. Suddenly, Ailey laughed. Ain't scared of nothing. Can you say that like a Canadian?
Ain't scared of nothing.
He said, twisting his voice into his best imitation of a Marksville hillbilly we used to know. Okay, so we're supposed to say that like a hillbilly.
He's a Marksville hillbilly.
He ain't scared of nothing.
God Tim Suitkin. I joined him, jumping to my feet. "Nothing!" I yelled. Just then a hiss of a cat strangled our laughter. It was long, sharp sound. It was long, sharp sound.
It was long, sharp sound.
That carried through the walls of the cabin, and something in the tone of that angry wail was almost human.
It's like when you hear a fox, like, in the middle of the night, and you think it's like a woman getting murdered.
Could be both.
Could be both.
Could be a woman murdering a fox and but they didn't want to hurt the fox. Maybe they were married to the fox, but the fox was domestically abusing the woman.
Oh.
This is turning into a really weird tangent.
It is. I'm liking where it's going, though. Keep going.
Keep going. Well, the marriage trouble started a long time ago between this fox and the woman.
The fox didn't buy the right ring.
The fox had a really bad factory job, and it was just putting too much stress on him. And it was manual labor, and his back was starting to go out, so that was causing him a lot of anxiety, and the only way he could get it out was to beat his human wife.
Oh my god. The swamp creatures felt it too, and the frogs went silent. Neither of us said a thing for a few seconds. The cat? Ailey nodded. "Yeah, I think so. Fuck's right," he said, setting his drink on the table. Beads of condensation rolled down the side of the plastic and onto the table. "Wish we had a 22, I said.
My brother nodded and mime shooting. Pop, pop. A breeze rose and stirred the palmetto leaves into the characteristic growl. The air was thick with humidity, and Ailey's shirt sagged with damp.
Yeah.
I don't know about that, Gary.
I like it.
Sagged from becoming damp. It's a little too poetic for my tastes.
I feel like that's how someone from the Bayou would say that, though. Like, I could see Gambit talking like that.
I'm sorry to shit on this story. This story isn't as cool as Gambit.
No. Nothing's ever as cool as Gambit, though.
No. He's super fun to play in Marvel vs. Capcom, and he really frustrates. It's Marvel. No, it's X-Men versus Street Fighter. That game that we always play when we go to that one arcade. And then I make everyone mad because I'm really good with Gambit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you do make everyone mad.
Please stop picking Gambit, Brandon. I'm sorry. It's like, it doesn't... Pick a different other character at least. Won't matter. I'll just use Gambit. Mine was much the same. I ran the side of my plastic cup across my forehead, and the whiskeyed ice numbed my skin in a few seconds.
God bless the man who invented the cooler. The frogs' voices rose in chorus again, supported by the low growl of the
corrugated leaves.
Whiskey? I asked. Ailey lifted his cup, and I sloshed in a few swallows. He took a sip and sighed. "We got ourselves a camp," he said.
I was like, "You want some whiskey?" It's like, "What other drinks do you got?" "We got whiskey."
"We might have cat's blood."
"And we've got domestic abuse of fox blood." Okay. I'm done with that joke. I don't know where else I could take that. Another quarter of bottle of Crown later. I threw a sleeping bag over a bunk. Lee pulled a chair over to the bed and secured a mosquito net from one of the exposed roof beams. We'd want that, even with the windows screened, until we could do something about the door. We peeled our clothes off and got into the gay pile, and stretched them across the backs of our chairs. "Fuck, it's hot," I said. I took a handful of ice from the cooler and mopped my face with it, relishing the momentary cool. My brother grunted in affirmation. Rethinking the generator? Now I am. I flopped onto the bunk next to him. Now I am. My dreams were troubled as I baked and turned like a rotisserie chicken. By morning, I was well done. I heard Ailey rise at the dawn as I drowsed?
Yeah. In half sleep.
In half sleep. Drowsed in half sleep. What does that mean?
That means, like, you know when you wake up and you're still, like, a little drowsy and, like, you can't just... Like, you're forcing yourself to get up, but it's just, like, you could hit your snooze until it dies.
I know what that is, but I think that you're making that up. I think you're making excuses for weird writing.
Maybe I am.
I don't know. It could be. It could be. Let us know in the comments below what you think.
I'm finding the writing charming, personally.
I am and I'm not. I'm of two minds about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck you, he laughed, shoving the bunk with his foot and startling me awake. What? You know what, asshole? No, really, I said, wiping my eyes and yawning. I sat up. The table, he said. What about it? His mouth twisted for a second and his eyes narrowed. Come see, he said.
No, it's more like, come see.
Come see.
I rolled out of the bunk, found my feet, and joined them. In the center of the table, cut into the board in rough letters, were two words. Get out! It's like,
go watch Get Out.
I have... this ghost...
monster...
is socially woke. Like, it says in big letters, get out, and they're like, what does it mean? And they go back to sleep, and then they and then they wake up again, and then in smaller font, not in all caps, just a giant diatribe of like, I really like the socio-political underpinnings of the movie Get Out. I gotta say, Jordan Peele is a really excellent... He just goes on and on about
it covers the entire table.
Yes.
Like, flipped it over and wrote on the other side of it.
And then he's like on the legs of the table. He starts saying, "It's like, did you notice how the woman had her milk and her cereal separated, and the milk was white and the Fruit Loops were colored?"
Now I'm just like imagining the Babadook doing this, like socially woke.
Socially woke Babadook.
Yeah.
The Babadook is already socially woke.
Yeah.
He's
gay, right?
Didn't they say it? Like, yeah, I that is the funniest thing in existence to me. That people will fall for anything. People are so gullible. My pocket knife was open, stuck point first, just above the T. You're telling me you didn't do this? My brother said, looking me in the eye. I could tell by his tone that he wasn't kidding around. I shook my head, no.
Ailey nodded and pulled my knife from the wood, folded it closed, and handed it back to me.
I won't need this. I'm good in hand-to-hand combat.
Don't leave it out again, he said. I was spooked. We were shook. We were babadooked. I was spooked. My brother was spooked. Hell, who wouldn't have been? Folks down here have more truck with the weird. That's a simple fact. From voodoo to hoodoo, from Loup Garou to... Traiteur. We're immersed in the strange. Some tread water, some dip their feet in. Hell, a few dive in. I think that's a god.
Yeah, I'm just binging this real quack. Real quack? What? Okay.
Yeah, we both need more coffee.
Apparently. Loup Garou. When I heard Loup and Garou, I figured that it was like a werewolf thing, but it's just like a Cajun werewolf legend.
Okay.
Yeah, I found a link. If anyone wants to check it below, I'll just leave a link below that describes what the Loup Garou is, and then I also want to figure out what traitor is. It's it's just the word traitor, but like in French spelling. In Louisiana, the term traiteur, also spelled traiteur,
faith healing,
describes a man or woman who practiced something known as faith healing. I did not know that.
Healer of the French-speaking Huma tribe, whose primary method of treating involves using the laying of the hands.
Okay, yeah, okay. So it's just like slaying people in the spirit? Maybe it's like it's its own thing? If it's like involving laying hands, then yeah, it's like slaying in the spirit. So just backwards, because all religion is backwards. It's just backwards.
Backwoods healing.
Yeah, like voodoo, but for white people who speak French. Continue on.
Alright. Some tread water. I already said that. But it's like the heat south of I-10. There's no getting away from it. Maybe that's why, spooked or not, we wordlessly gathered out rods and tackle, are off in sunscreen, fished a few, nearly dozen frozen Starbucks canned espressos out of the cooler, and started the bateau into the patch of swamp that had never really became ours that Wednesday. When Ailey and I signed our names in bold blue ink at the realtor's office in Lafayette.
Okay, so fished a few nearly frozen Starbucks cans. Okay,
That's gotta be a really good cooler.
it's gotta be like.
That's like gotta be the most high-tech cooler in existence.
Now listen here, fellas.
That cooler's gotta be at least $20.
You're gonna want the Freeze Tech 5000 T-Series model.
Does it come with Red Bull Delight?
Red Bull Delight. So that paragraph, see, like, in that paragraph, I think that the way that they're phrasing everything is reasonable in terms of, like, being a little more colorful with the language, but then again, I'm less shaky on that. I don't know, I'm rambling. The cypress knees rose from the black water like the lower teeth of some great monster. Come on, that's wonderful. That's just a wonderful sentence. And it comes after a rather big paragraph. Just having that sentence on its own, the cypress knees rose from the black water like the lower teeth of some great monster. Having that alone puts more weight onto a really good line of dialogue. Here and there, small lagoons of lily and still black water broke the swamp. Ailey cut the Everrude, I think that's just like a brand of boat, at the most promising, and sent a sparkling white rooster tail in the long, slow arc to land next to the slump of a soft plop. These are starting to sound like Neutral Milk Hotel lyrics.
I think they're fishing.
Within... Why did you write that like that? They're just fishing. It's like, couldn't you have just said they're fishing? Within seconds, he had a strike. A second later, a fat sac-oulat with what was wriggling in the bottom of the bateau. The sun sent fingers through the cypress that fell on the water, the lilies and us. A bright blue dragonfly, iridescent in the sun, settled on the bow next to me. Still as stone. I watched it for a few seconds between casts. The fish were biting, and made a stringer from a length of bank line and a few fresh twigs cut from a low branch. It was soon heavy with our struggling dinner. So we have the line there. The sun sent fingers through the cypress. So as in, like, sunbeams were coming down through the trees. That's a nice line. I will say this, though. This won a Creepypasta contest, and it's not a Creepypasta.
Not really.
Nothing about this says Ashcan Horror. Nothing about this says Creepypasta. It's not written by a millennial, very clearly, or it doesn't take on those qualities. It doesn't have any real aspects of, like, nostalgia or that kind of thing. It's written in a more romantic way. It's not written from...
It's definitely, like, Southern romantic.
And it doesn't feel like a... it doesn't feel like a blog entry. It doesn't feel informal. It feels like, even though there's a certain kind of homeliness to it, it doesn't take on that quality of it being informal. This is formally written. Someone sat down and edited this.
Yes. They're just... I mean, it's very beautifully written, I think, in my opinion.
And I think the same thing in places.
Too poetic.
Yes,
to really be a creepypasta.
And if you're the judge of this contest, you didn't make a bad decision.
No, it's a good story.
But I think that it is important to be clear about those terms. This is not in any way recognizable from what we know as creepypasta, even the most liberal definition of it, The only thing creepypasta about this is that it was written and then posted on the internet.
Yeah.
And by that logic, Edgar Allan Poe is creepypasta.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. I was feeling better, and so was Ailey. We got a mess of fish, I said. Ailey smiled. You want to clean them here or back at the camp? Fresh fish guts in the water wouldn't hurt fishing any, so I decided to do it now. Out came the pocket knives, and off went the scales. Baileys were slit, entrails pulled, and Ailey, always meticulous, scraped the backs of their cavities to remove any sign of the bitter innards. As we worked, we rinsed our catch in the swamp water, and every so often a flash of silver white told me that a cannibal was feasting just below the surface.
Again, just, I feel that the further we get into the story, the tighter the writing is getting.
Yeah.
And I think that's... I have no commentary on that. Again, I'm rambling.
I feel like this would be a really good submission for, like, a, literary magazine.
Yes, for sure. My brother fired up the motor, spun us neatly around, and brought us back to the camp. I took the stinger of fish and climbed the ladder. My head was just even with planks of the deck when I saw it. A white cat stood just by the door in the dark of the cabin. We had forgotten to close and lock the door. It hissed a warning to me, long, pale, teeth bare to the gums. "Shoo!" I yelled, "Scat!" The cat hissed again and turned slowly, watching me with its green eyes as it sunk further into the cabin. I dropped the fish on the deck and pulled myself up. The cat? Ailey asked. Yeah, fuck him. Fuck that cat.
I could tell the spook was back on him. In truth, the hairs on my neck were straight and stiff. I don't know, Ailey, I began. Maybe we should just go. Fuck that, he said. This is our camp. The cat hissed from somewhere in the cabin. Ours, Ailey called from the ladder. I just like the idea of this guy screaming at this cat. Ours!
It is our cat. Get out of here, cat.
You didn't sign the lease.
I dug through our gear for a skillet and a bag of fish fry. From the porch, I watched my brother unscrew the lantern from the propane tank and replace it with a small camp stove. "Joseph, you gonna help or what?" he asked. His mind was set, like an anchor. Kept me falling further into the spook.
Is that like the first time our narrator is named?
No, they've been named before, Joseph, yeah.
Oh, I missed it.
I don't think that the brother's been named. I can't remember that.
Right, I don't either.
So it's Joseph, Ailey, and the brother.
Right.
Or Ailey is the brother?
I don't think Ailey is the brother. I think they're separate entities.
It took an effort, but we made my legs move and managed to cross the threshold. I was picking up the last bits of flesh from the bones when Ailey poured the whiskey. I nibbled the tail, fried hard and crisp, and took a long, slow sip of cold Crown. How are you drinking the remaining Crown Royal, or how many bottles of Crown Royal do you have?
And how is it still cold? How is your cooler not, like, just full of liquid water? Or liquid
water?
Liquid ice.
Yeah,
It's just water.
I love how you go condescending for a bit. You turn into the critical YouTuber of like, how is the cooler?
No, I just
and then you say liquid water like a fucking idiot.
You don't date me for my brain.
How is this water all liquidy and stuff? I don't want my water to be liquid.
I want it in gas form.
No, but it is a good point of like, what cooler do you have? We need.
Like, I want to invest in this cooler because, like, the one we have at home, like 90-degree weather, everything is melted within like 2 hours.
You know, we were talking about Gullah Gullah Island earlier, and the only thing I remember from watching Gullah Gullah Island, and I watched a bunch of it, was one time they took a cooler and then wrapped the inside of it with tinfoil, and then they fried vegetables in it.
This sounds like a weird show.
And then there was an episode where they were all screaming. Ailey said, yeah? Ailey, I said, yeah? We gotta do something. We ain't got to do anything but have a good time, he said. He touched his plastic to mine as if he expected the fine ring of crystal.
You know, like how when you clink crystal glasses, you get that clink.
Oh, okay. Drink up and pour another. Are they drinking out of red Solo cups?
Red Solo cup, I'll fill you up.
Is that the song?
Let's have a party, yeah.
Is that the country guy's song? Is
Yeah.
that Toby Keith's song?
I know it's a country song.
Okay.
Raven was obsessed with it.
I bet she was.
I set it as my ringtone for her in high school.
Here's my $200 bottle of wine. Let me put it in a red Solo cup. That's your thought of a sister.
Yeah.
Maybe we should talk to Richard, I said, saying his name like we do. Richard.
Richard. He knows about things like this.
Nobody knows about things like this. Hell, it ain't even a thing. Just some fucking cat in an old cabin.
Neither of
It's
us.
just some cabin pussy.
Yeah, it's just cabin pussy. Neither of us mentioned the table. It wouldn't bear mentioning if you know what I mean. I noticed clearly for the first time that my brother had covered the carved words with a cutting board. Ailey sensed my fear. It's just a cat in a cabin, Joseph. Drink up. I did, emptying my cup in slow swallows. Ailey poured more whiskey over the ice. We may have to make a run for more crown, he said, forcing a laugh. They're finally nearing the end of their crown.
Look,
I said...
Lee, I told you 5 bottles of Crown wasn't enough.
Even if they're all the size of my torso.
It's like, what did we even get the Cool Tech 5000 T-Series cooler for, if not to have ice-cold Crown Royal while we flip this here cabin?
So is it Crown Royal or is it Crown Royale?
Are they... I was about to say, are they French? And then I realized they're in the bayou. And I was like, well, kinda. You're probably thinking of the drink Akir Royale.
I've never heard of that.
Oh, okay. That's unfortunate.
I'm just thinking of the way my dad says Crown Royale.
Your dad's... I guess they would say Crown Royale, because your dad's a hick, and these people are hicks.
They're Southern Hicks. Super Southern Hicks?
They are Southern hicks, and then
They're not the mountain Hicks of my family.
Yeah, like our family.
Yeah. Our singular family.
Sis, keep reading.
Oh no, our secrets come out.
The secret come out is our dead palate incest.
Where was I? Don't want to run dry. He sloshed the last few fingers in the bottle for emphasis and then caught my eye. Our camp, he said. Ours. I love how threatened he is by this cat.
It's like, are you...
Don't put the cat's name on the lease.
Hey, Lee, are you good to operate a boat in your condition? What, do you think we're going to get pulled over by the Bayou Boat Police? The Bayou Bateau Police?
The hairs on my arms prickled, and despite the heat, I shivered. Behind my brother, a dark shadow hung, suspended from a ceiling beam. A man on a rope, his feet swinging inches from the floor. What? Ailey asked. What's up?
Oh no.
Oh
no. Dark, very dark.
Very dark.
Extremely dark man hanging from a rope.
Oh no.
Oh no, in the south. Oh no.
Oh no. I could feel...
Here's my hanging cabin.
Oh, Jesus. I could feel the blood leave my face and pointed. Ailey turned, and the shadow was gone, but it hadn't been my imagination, I was sure of it. The rope. I knew it was a rope. A hangman. The trapper.
The trapper.
Ailey, my words, a whisper. Fuck that, he said, taking another long sip of whiskey, and fuck you. This is our cabin. Ours.
Haley, you've got to stop drinking. I need to drink more Crown Royal. Sir, that's not Crown Royal, that's Bayou water, and this isn't a cabin.
This is the hospital.
This is
Get down from there.
This is that restaurant at Disneyland. What are you doing? I'll have another Crown Royal bottle. My brother is a stubborn man, and he will have his way, come hell or high water. We did indeed make a run for more Crown, down in the bayou again, Spanish moss dancing in the wind. Clouds were building, and the sky was a gray-blue tinged with black and purple. The lake was already rough, and the wind,
No.
too much Crown Royal, teasing the waves into small crests. The storm's coming, I said as we pushed off the pier. My brother nodded. We needed to get up the lake in a hurry and risk swamping.
Or risk swapping.
And he opened the throttle, and the Everrude roared into action. This time, I sat in the stern near him to avoid most of the spray, and we took turns sipping the bottle, swallowing whiskey like it was medicine, which I suppose, in a way, it was. It was grim revelry, and our mood was as dark as the sky. Okay.
Our camp, Ailey had said. Ours. It didn't feel like that, though. Blue ink and laundry's reality or not. Realty.
Blue ink and laundry realty or not.
Yeah.
Landry. Landry? John Landry.
Am I just throwing a U in there? Because I feel like it should be laundry.
I don't think that these guys do their laundry. They're out there in the sun, they're sweating. This is some...
You know what they do?
This is our stinky man cabin.
This is our stinky man cabin where we drink Crown Royale and yell at cats. By the time we reached the shelter of the bayou, the lake was impassable. There we go. For a small boat. But here, the close trees and the swamp sheltered the water. And through the cypress, we were cutting a rug. And though I feel like I should be speaking Simish. And though the cypress were cutting a rug above us, the bayou's black water was still as the grave.
Is he speaking Simlish? No, he's just had a lot of Crown Royal. I'll have the jalapeno Crown Royal in swamp water.
Poppers, please.
Poppers. Ailey raced the storm and swamp whipped past. There was an excitement to it, an anxious, fearful energy crackling before the storm. Lightning pealed overhead. Pow!
Peel one.
And the sky opened, spilling rain into the drenching street sheets. The cabin came into view as we rounded the last bend, and my brother waited to release the throttle, sliding between piling and under the camp. I batted webs away with that terrible feeling you get when you know a spider is on you, when the silk is in your face. Ailey was having none of it and seized a piling, bringing the bateau to a stop.
I felt stupid and childish.
Immature and churlish.
I stopped fighting the spiders and tied us off. We had bought some more ice for the cooler at Lucky's, and Ailey threw the bags over his shoulder and climbed the ladder without a word. I grabbed the bottle and followed him up. They only got one bottle?
I don't know. I guess that they were just drinking the remaining quarter of a bottle of Crown Royal, which between 3 people is really not a whole lot of Crown Royal.
Right.
It is for that one black bar that we went to.
They really poured heavy.
They didn't have a... Man, that was an experience. That was an experience. We both paused?
Yeah.
We both paused after I unlocked the door. Rain streaming down our faces, shirt plastered to our skin with water. My brother broke our paralysis, giving the old wood a push with his foot. I looked, and I'm sure he did too, though he made an effort at nonchalance. The cabin was as we left it. I could breathe. We went in, the wind now howling in the trees. The rain beat the roof in a steady drumming, revealing copious leaks. Ailey had the lantern going shortly. A cloud dimmed the sky. The cloud-dimmed sky wasn't giving us much light. I wouldn't tell this author what they need to do with their story. I feel that this might be better if we kind of had a fish out of water to explain a little better.
Yeah.
If, like, one of the characters was
a city boy.
Was a city boy of some kind to kind of, like, give us... You know, and it could be, like, a city boy like me who is you know, somewhat familiar with a more rural lifestyle. And it's just like, you know, I'm coming back to the city. I mean, back to the country.
Going back home after going to grad school.
Yeah, going to grad, something like that, or like, you know, haven't been out here in a while, and then like help them regret the situation a little bit more. Just thoughts that I'm having due to their apprehensions and everything. I don't know. I'm all over the place.
I cracked the ice on the floor a few times to break it up. tore the bags open, and spilled it loudly into the cooler. My brother scooped our plastic cups full and poured a hefty measure of Crown into each of them.
He pulled up the chair and stirred his drinks with one of his meaty fingers.
Oh, he's got meat fingers.
With his sweaty bayou fingers. The storm was raging across the swamp. Do you remember the Erlen's doll? He asked, his still spinning the ice. Oh yeah, I said. Our Aunt Erlen had an old doll with a porcelain face she had kept in a chair in her bedroom. Its painted features were weathered and worn, its glass eyes terrible and deep. It had a pull string on its back, but we never dared discover what it might say. We used to dare each other to pull it, but neither of us ever had the nerve. Burping.
Gesundheit.
It was like that, he said, taking a sip. Just like that. What do you mean? This cabin, it's spooky, but it ain't gonna hurt us none.
I considered that as I swallowed a mouthful of Crown. We never...
I considered that as I swallowed a mouthful of melted crayons.
Oh!
That's waxy.
We never pulled that string. But here we were, pulling on something that felt far worse. I suppose, I said, but Ailey is my older brother. So they are the same person. You were correct.
What the fuck?
But I felt it was written.
But they said, didn't Ailey stay behind to drink?
I don't know.
I am so confused.
I'm a little confused as well.
Is there? It seems like there's 3 people. Anyway, I don't know.
Anywho, but Ailey is my older brother. Even as a grown man, if he had said so, I had faith. Old school, kneeling on pine plank faith.
This is our camp, he said, tapping the table for emphasis, and I aim to enjoy it. Our camp. I needed to piss something fierce, which is not a good sign when whiskey has been your only beverage. I made my way to half-open door, and wet as I was, stepped onto the back deck to pee off the edge. Our camp. My peeing porch.
My peeing porch.
The lightning flashed bright against the dark sky. The thunder hurt my ears and sent my head pounding. I turned to Ailey. That lightning had been close.
What I saw froze my mouth, and it was as if my heart struggled against a firm grip. One crippled, sideways, thumping beat at a time. There was a man behind him, on the other side of the table, an old man in raggedy clothes. He had long, white hair, but what struck me most was the coiled noose around his neck and the dangling rope, lost beneath the shadows of the table. The trapper. His camp! I tried to call out. My mouth opened, but no sound slipped out. Get out! Roared the old man, his voice like a storm wind. The door slammed shut, loud as the thunderclap had been. Ailey was inside his camp.
And that was the end of my brother.
And then I was an only child.
And now I am an only child. I felt a cold hand on my neck and I was falling 15 minutes long.
15 feet long.
15 feet long into the bayou. I hit flat and hard, felt the slap of the warm water, felt the embrace of its black arms. Sinking. I tried to kick, but something had me. The darkness. It had my heart. Kingdom Hearts 3. Something cold as ice in our cooler. It was the trapper's nobody. Crown Royal Mickey. It was pulling me down and down, deeper into the muddy water. I was going to die there, right then. But then I thought of Ailey in the cabin, his cabin, behind that closed door. I couldn't leave him, not like that. Not in his cabin. I kicked viciously.
Viciously and viciously.
Both, even. And worked my arms like mad. Whatever it was, let me go, and I rocketed to the surface, my head breaking the water into the rain. A few strokes had me onto the ladder, and I pulled myself onto the lowest rung and climbed for all I was worth.
I am not a small man, and I hit the door like a hurricane. It held. I backed up and hit it again. It resisted for an instant and then swung open, spilling me onto the floor.
Lightning flashed. The propane lamp was dead. Ailey was on the floor. I grabbed my brother by his leg and heaved him across the floor onto the deck. and the dim storm-like cypress whipped in the air. I looked down at my brother's eyes and his dead pale face.
He can't be dead. He can't be dead. He can't be dead. He can't be dead. Lee! I yelled over the storm. Lee! I slapped him hard. He choked and sputtered and drew a loud, halting breath.
Joseph, he asked.
Yeah, it's Joseph. I cradled his head in my hands. I got you, brother.
He had to close his eyes from the rain. Joseph. So, I think that... What do we think about the actual haunting happening here?
I like it less knowing that the brother and Ailey are the same person.
I like the ambiguity that the story had when I had no fucking clue who anyone was.
Right.
To me, the haunting is...
The haunting thus so far isn't...
Is like, it's fine, is like my only feeling. I don't think that there's anything particularly gripping about the haunting.
Yeah. It's like they mentioned like some Cajun lore.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't really feel like we're really using Cajun lore now. It's just like, oh, spooky old man in a noose.
Spooky old man in a noose. Clap, clap. Spooky old man in a noose. Clap, clap.
Spooky old man in a noose and his cat.
Spooky old man in a noose.
Clap, clap.
So he's a trapper. Why did he like hang himself? You know, these are the questions that I need to ask. Like,
or did the cat hang him because of domestic violence?
So the fox and the woman have a domestic, and then also the trapper and the cat have a domestic.
And they have a domestic at the same time.
Yeah, so I'm trying to figure out why. I'm hoping that we get some sort of reason as to why the trapper is territorial.
Yeah.
Because the trapper is just the ghost of a dude, right?
Supposedly.
Yeah.
Not so far, that's what I'm getting.
Yeah, I don't know why he wouldn't... And it's not like you have people from out of town or something. Like, these are fellow Bayou people who are coming there to appreciate the culture for what it is.
I don't know, we haven't gotten to the end yet. It could actually be the two brothers from HGTV.
Yes, it could be. It could, sure.
Just with accents.
We don't talk like that. I find that offensive. I want you out of my cabin.
Yeah.
So, like... I think that's what I would expect it to be, is like, you know, hey, fellow hipster, how about we go, like, buy a cabin in the swamp, ironically, and then go fish there, and we'll even
ironically.
We'll fish there, ironically, and we'll drink Crown Royale, ironically, out of red Solo cups, ironically, and then, like,
it pisses play our ukuleles, and...
Yes, and then post about it on Instagram.
Yeah.
And then, like, that is... pissing off the ghost of the trapper, who is just like, this is
banjo country.
This is banjo country. And because a banjo takes skill and a ukulele doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
But no, instead it's Bayou people mad at Bayou people. And again, maybe this is just my biases of what I want the story to do, but I would expect it to be something like that. If it's just like, I just don't want you in my house because it's my house, it's kind of, eh.
It's like, this isn't like the grunge.
The grunge?
Yeah.
As in, like, the genre of music popularized by Nirvana, Chelsea?
No.
And I'm haunting.
That's not what I meant.
I'm Sadako. This is the ring now.
The ring.
Versus Sayako.
Oh, I'm just gonna die in the corner. Oh.
Oh, man. You know what, though? When I think of The Grudge, Chelsea,
yeah.
and I think of the Bayou, I think of Resident Evil 7.
Yeah?
Yeah. Good game. I slung Ailey across my shoulder and tried to stand. My legs burnt with the effort, and my bad knee gave a sickening pump.
Oh.
But I got to my feet and staggered to the ladder. I'm not sure how I managed to get us both down, but I did. I let my brother into the bateau, and gently as I could, untied us, and got... Ooh, excuse me.
Okay.
This coffee is not carbonated. Why am I burping so much?
Well, you did have soda earlier.
You know what? I did.
That was carbonated.
I had Barks root beer, and Chelsea had never had Barks root beer somehow.
No, never. It was really good.
At the diner we went to. And
also had liver and onions. Clap, clap.
And I had tendies, because of course I did. But, like, we went to a diner, and she didn't have that. And where was I going? I puttered to life and gave it gas. And I'm not used to having cola, so that's why I'm burping a lot.
Yeah.
I bounced the bow off of the piling, got us clear, and launched us out into the rain. I swung the tiller hard and had the motor roaring. Thunder pealed into the bayou towards the lake.
I risked one look back. I wished I hadn't. No sleep.
Okay, no sleep.
There, in the doorway, was the trapper, with his rope whipping in the storm like a lash. His mouth was moving, and though I couldn't hear him over the engine, I knew what he said. Get out!
This is my autoerotic asphyxiation cabin.
You know, I kind of hope that's where it goes.
We spent a long, wet night in the swamp. I ran us aground under the thickest stand of cypress I could find, but I knew we couldn't risk the lake in this weather. The wind and rain beat the swamp all night, but at least it kept us the worst of the mosquitoes at bay. Ailey soon regained his senses, roused almost as if from sleep, and sat up in the bateau.
Joseph? Yeah, Lee, it's alright, we're good. That seemed to satisfy him. We sat there, in the dark, huddled in the bateau till first light. Needless to say, we didn't go back to the camp. When it was late enough to see, I started up the Everrood and took us to the launch. It was a long, silent drive home. We've never been back to the camp. His camp. I don't expect we will.
You can't believe your eyes when 10,000 mosquitoes
light up like fireflies.
You can't believe whatever you can believe whatever you want. I was drunk and fell from the porch, and my imagination conjured the trapper, that a gust of wind shut the door, and that the lightning struck a bit too close to Ailey that night. But I know what I believe. I know what's true. On paper, we still own the cabin. By law, it's ours. But it's not. It never will be. It's his.
And it will be till the whole thing slips beneath that thick, black water and is washed away in a storm. Maybe even after that.
Written by J.D. Lucien. There's a link to the person's Facebook.
Weird.
Which is where all the good authors are. That's not like his Facebook page, just to him. You can it's a deleted. Follow the link, maybe. Yep, it's deleted. Yeah, no, that's not the best way to do that. It's rated 7. Basically, it's rated 8 out of 10 by 200 votes from the Creepypasta.com.
I'm disappointed because they mentioned Bayou werewolves, and you know what I got absolutely none of? Bayou werewolves.
Yeah, you really didn't. But I will say that...
And no faith healing either.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be either like the Traitor or the Loup Garou, but I think when they mention those things, they're trying to get you into a headspace, and then maybe subvert your expectations in some way.
The problem is, though, that by mentioning those, it feels like a gun.
Yes, it is.
Like, don't just mention the gun over the mantle and then never have it go off.
It is a Chekhov's gun situation, but I think that there are stories that can do something similar where it's like Loup Garou, it's Bayou werewolves, okay, and then they give you something that subverts your expectations by giving you something of that, but then it
like
not being...
Like make the cat a werewolf.
It does... It could be something as simple as we encountered of something supernatural that was vicious or something along those lines. But what they mentioned, it just didn't deliver.
Yeah.
It seemed like it was a lot of build-up, and then when it came time for there to be like scary action, it was very truncated. I want to be clear though. I think I can see why people would like this story, and I could see how it would win a contest. But it does have flaws, and I don't think that it was our cup of tea.
Right. I agree.
I really enjoyed reading parts of it, but I think the lead up was better than the
foreplay was way better than the climax.
Yes. I would also say that, like, we didn't get enough answers about who the trapper was, even if it was just, like, a very shallow postscript kind of thing of, like, and then we, like, looked up who owned the cabin beforehand, and and then give us, like, a few vague answers that way. Or if they, like, looked it up and they're like, we tried to look it up, but there was, like, some bayou law that says we're not allowed to know. Or
like, our realtor never got back to us.
You know how I would end this? You need to tell me if somebody died in there. That's a law. And then they sue the realtor.
Yes.
Because they just, that's a weird ending of just like, we still own it, but we don't go there. It's like,
right.
So you just wasted money?
But I also want to know who was Cat.
Who was Cat?
Who was Cat? Like, was the cat the old man's? Was the cat the bayou?
You know, the cat was like a red herring.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense, though, because the cat...
Was white.
Well, you know, subverting expectations should be a black cat, then it's a white one.
Well,
but
red herring?
Yes.
Yeah.
But it was dry.
Yeah.
In the bayou.
Yeah.
So, like...
They mentioned that.
Yeah, and they mention that, and then they don't explain
and then they
why it
never
would be that
follow up,
way.
Yeah. Like, did the old man like to collect cats, and that was the survivor cat? Or the cat that died?
Yeah, I think that if you go through and read this again, you're going to find more problems than what we found.
Yeah.
I don't think that this is the kind of thing that could really stand the test of time. But, no, I think that those are pretty much my final thoughts. We thought it was a real steal. Like, you know, they found this place. I don't know why you wouldn't resell it. Because that's what you do.
Yeah.
If you find a property like that.
You
get a house and then it's haunted. Okay, one of two things is going to happen. You either turn it into an attraction.
Right.
Or you sell it.
Right.
Haunted house flippers. Call us HGTV.
Yes.
That's the trick. That's what I want the reality show to be, is you and I go around, find people who own houses that are on the market to sell them, and we go to them and we're like, how much are you selling this for? We're selling it for $100,000. Okay, we'll think about that. And then we go away, and then we start haunting the house, like doing spooky hoaxes. Yes. And make them like lower the price.
Yes.
And it's like, you know, we were thinking about it. We think 1,000's too high. We heard this place is haunted. Can we get a haunting discount? Right. That's what I want. You get, 100,000 is pretty reasonable. I think 80,000. I think this is an 80,000 house.
You know, I think though with the ghosts doing weird ghost things, I think it might be more like 20,000.
And then you just hear like you have like a little button in your pocket and you hit it, and then like a dead horse falls through the ceiling. It's like, whoa, what is that?
Whoa, where did
10,000
that come from? Right. I'll get this house cheaper than a car.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, if you enjoyed that, please check out the Fear Fiction podcast, linked below, where myself and fellow horror writers Abysme and Slimebeast read and react to horror stories of all types and stripes and BS while we do it. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this, please do subscribe for more.